Hello and welcome to our show, Midwest Weekly, starring myself, Hairwiz, and my co-host, as always, CLT. We are here to give you a breakdown of the semifinals matchups in the Midwest Sweat League. Without further ado, let's start with the first matchup of our week, and that was Sad Jellyfish versus Boomer Squad. So, I shouldn't say first match of the week, but first matchup. We're going in from top to bottom here. So, um, yeah, CLT, this was a banger series, we recall, right? We had ourselves a full 3 game series. And the first matchup was really a crazy game. 46 minutes. Felt like the game was never going to end. And I think it ended on a fight where the enemy team had, or I should say, Sad Jellyfish had Baron and Elder buff, correct?
Yeah. This game was very entertaining to say the least. Boomer Squad got off to a really uh good solid early game lead. Um, with Tang and Poke Archer making quite a bit of work, and I know Dippy was doing his best to keep Victor Apple down. Definitely put a lot of pressure in lanes, and even came out with a few kills in the 2v2's top lane. Um, but I felt like comp wise, Boomers had a really nice game one draft coming into this, especially Bori with this Neela. I think this might have been the first Neela of the split for the league, and into stuff like Ash, Echo, Camille that have like auto attack based abilities. Her dodge field really helped out the team, especially in the late game team fights. But yeah, Sad Jellyfish, they went back and forth and grinded through the mid game and got to super late game, which this Vladimir and this Echo and Camille really popped off. They won a team fight that turned into an Elder Dragon, and then immediately the death timers were long enough they turned it into a Baron. But and during that last game, that game-ending push, I think Dippy got caught out a little bit in the bot lane, um, and then Victor kind of flanked the team fight and CC'd the backline with a massive Yone ult that gave Bori enough time to get in there and do a lot of damage on this front line. And then Bori just felt so safe. I mean, when you have Immortal Shield Bow, Bloodthirster, Dodge Field, Bori was surprisingly very tanky in these team fights, as long as he didn't get CC'd by Echo. So, but yeah, Boomer Squad ended up winning that team fight, and with death timers being 55 seconds plus, they marched down mid and took this game one.
Yeah, what was something really to note for you in this first game? Like looking back, that said Jellyfish could have maybe capitalized on to win this game.
Um, wow, I think looking back at this game, it felt like Sad Jellyfish kind of placed themselves into a comp and maybe a little bit of a stylistic difference than what they might have been used to. You even noted this going into the series that putting Mark Cutie on supports that don't have the greatest roam would have been like one of the keys to victory for Boomer Squad, and we seen it this game one where Marcuti was on the Renata Glass, and while Renata's good into like really divey comps, it felt like Boomer Squad picked the engages quite well and spread it out the team fights that they weren't in like jungle areas, so the Renata ult didn't get like the greatest amount of value. I distinctively remember one time where I think she got 3 people, but 2 of them had the dodge field on it from Neela, so they really didn't take much damage at all from it. But yeah, it was a really like skirmishy style comp from Boomer Squad, and I don't think Sad Jellyfish really seen that coming from them um, overall. What was I know you kind of mentioned it, but what's your thought on this like Echo jungle that we've seen Haku play? I know he's very very talented at the pick, but do you think it's in like a really good spot right now, or
No, I think it's if it was like early split, or even the previous split where AP junglers were obviously really busted, I think then it would have been great. But in the current setup, with items and everything, it doesn't feel that strong as far as your AP jungler options. Um, I don't know. I think again, like if you're really good at something, play it. Right. I do lean towards that. If you're really good at something, play what you feel comfortable on. But I think there's other stuff in Haku's pool that Haku could have pulled out in this series, instead of just slamming the keyboard in 3 games of Echo. For me, since he is so talented, like stuff even like the Kindred, for example, stuff that would allow him to bully out Poke Archer, would have been something I would love to see, especially because Haku is one of those very very good pathers. Has really good gank timings and invade timings as well, and is pretty good in duels. So I just was really really surprised that we kind of just sent the Echo 3 times, especially because Echo is not horrible in dueling, but like when you're playing in a J4 or something, for example, like J4 doesn't care about Echo pre-6. And even at 6, it's like, what are you going to do to me? Unless the Echo is like super fed, J4 doesn't care. So that's kind of my take on it. I still think like he played it well throughout the series, and I don't look at it like, okay, this is where they lost or anything. I don't feel like that's what happened. I just know that he has some more variety in his pool that would have been much better for the series overall. Um, but leading into, we can kind of just actually have that lead into the game 2 where he picked it again because they end up winning that game. So he sends it again, right? And I remember this game being not per se a straight stomp, but it definitely was heavily favored for Sad Jellyfish, right? Uh, and part of that was literally just Haku having a really, really good performance in the jungle on that Echo. But even with that lead, it just still felt like the damage, like it wasn't, he wasn't as bursty still. Like it didn't matter. Now, I know you mentioned like him having to forego like Nashor's Tooth, for example. I don't know if that's what Haku normally builds. I don't even know if he built it in this series at all. I mean, we can look. Um, let's check here. Game 1, didn't build it. Game
no?
2, I know didn't build it. In Game 3, yeah, no Nashor. So I don't even think this is what Haku goes for. Maybe it's not the build he's favoring, or maybe that's just not the current Echo build. Um, but maybe that's why he was lacking damage. I don't know. I can't say for sure, because I do know that used to be the Echo build back in the day. So it's very interesting to me. But yeah, he was going for the I have to look here. The Rocket Belt, because I couldn't think of the word. The Rocket Belt,
Yeah,
Lich Bane, Zanya's, Sork Shoes kind of was the route he went for most of the series, which is a good build. But I also think like, yeah, maybe that's why he was lacking damage, because the Rocket Belt is not a very high damage item. So maybe just go that early Nashor's Tooth. Maybe he does more in the series, and maybe that can kind of turn the tides a bit, especially there in Game 1, where Game 1 went forever. So we get opportunities to certainly get more damage in the build. But yeah, I mean this game too was definitely controlled very much by Marcuti and Haku. Shanti obviously had a really good performance as well, and Dippy and Salt did just fine in their lanes. There was no like serious issues there or anything. It was just those two setting up the team, getting them fed or getting them fed for themselves in Haku's case, and just running the map, which led to a relatively quick game. It was 29 minutes. I mean, that's in this current meta. I'd say it's pretty, or current game state. It's pretty quick. I think.
yeah. This game too, I thought Sad Jellyfish kind of adapted a little bit. If I remember the draft correctly, I think Boomer Squad 1, 2, 3 the same champs from last game, so they adapted the draft a little bit better. Um, picked in something like Victor that is definitely more control magey compared to um, Vladimir from game 1. Salt definitely had like a much better time pushing Tang around in lane, and Haku definitely got a couple of early kills that accelerated him quite a bit, and Dippy definitely had his counter pick and put it on the team a little bit. Being a short range comp, Darius was definitely like a really good R5 there, uh, and you could tell. But Victor did still did quite well in lane. It just like you said, once that jellyfish got rolling, this comp just couldn't be stopped.
Yeah, and I mean it all starts with that solo kill too. Like Salt, we were I remember
Yeah.
watching it. I'm showing it right now for everybody watching at home. I literally remember we were talking during the cast and like how low he was getting, and we were kind of talking about the matchup, what it would be like. And I thought like the Aurora shouldn't have that bad of a time in the matchup, but she wasn't landing enough of the abilities. And when you're not landing abilities in trading, you're gonna have a tough time because Victor can certainly poke the Aurora out, and he did that, and then just kind of flashed in for the solo kill. But yeah, it starts there, right? It starts with your MVP from last split. Um, kind of, I feel like building a momentum right there,
Hmm.
and then Haku started fighting plays, and Marcuti just obviously being able to roam a lot in this row and setting up big all-ins. I know he was able to flash in on Changi a couple times and burn sums or whatnot, or just get kills. This Senna was not safe in lane when this row was around. I mean, neither was his Ash, but Senna specifically felt like she kind of counterpicked. It felt like I don't know if that's the case, but if that's true, but it felt that way.
Yeah.
And you did mention the R5 Darius. The R5 Darius is really smart because
Yeah.
you get the Poppy top, and now she has no value out of her W in her solo lane, which isn't always the worst thing. But like she definitely does not want to be in extended trades against Darius, right? Like she loses those 100% of the time. So I thought it was a really smart pick, and he was able to really exploit that a bit. But I also think the Poppy did fine. Like I don't think Victor didn't run it down in the matchup or anything. Like he held his own, but it was hard to do that once Dippy got to 6 and could just start walking at this Poppy and beat her ass. So
Yeah, there was no point where even if Poke Archer showed up top lane that Dippy was afraid. He could easily uh 2v1 once he got a little bit of resources under his belt, and there was just nothing they could really do. When you've got Aurora, Jarvan, Poppy, like you're it's really hard to play into Darius. That's such a short range comp.
yeah, absolutely. Do we remember what the breaking point in this game was? Cause I'm trying to remember. Like I remember game
Um,
1 and 3 pretty well, but game 2 I just like I can't remember it, and it's bothering me.
I yeah, I'm trying to think. No, I just know it seemed like every jungle fighter, every skirmish kind of went the way of Sad Jellyfish, and that just kind of started to snowball on each other. Um, I mean, looking here at around 21 minutes, you've got two item Echo with Sork Shoes and Salt on two items as well. So they definitely like the mid jungle duo, um, and even throw Shanti in there as well. Like the damage dealers for a Sad Jellyfish just got super accelerated with all this fighting. And it just overall, when you looked at the comps, it definitely felt like there was a touch of like draft edge
Yeah,
on the Sad
I
Jellyfish.
think Shanti getting Caitlyn here was like I even stated it before it happened that we should ban the Caitlyn, like right, like if I were in this situation, ban the Caitlyn and leave the Ezreal up, because Shanti, even though she's a good Ezreal player, I think the Caitlyn is just so good at Caitlyn, man. Like I just have to state like if you watch this Shanti, like mad respect to your Caitlyn. It's very very clean. So like seeing that left open in that circumstance where she doesn't die a lot, generally speaking, so you're not going to get many opportunities to kill this Caitlyn, and then she's also on something she's very comfortable on and does really nice setup for objectives, and just the damage is going to be insane as the game progresses due to headshots. I was like, there's no way that this champion gets left up, and it did, and they banned the Israel
Yeah,
instead, and so I do feel like that's where they definitely messed up in the draft a bit. Game 2 for the side of Boomer Squad. But it also kind of was like the same thing. Like I don't think Sad Jellyfish draft was perfect either. I still disagree with leaving everything up from game uh, from the first game. Yeah, maybe the Aurora didn't work out game two, and maybe the Senna didn't either. And I guess that's kind of fine. But I also think you risk not making adaptations getting punished. They did do some differences in the second set of bans at least, but I definitely would like to see that more, where you have a small adaptation there. So I also think something as well. If I remember correctly, didn't they ban Camille on the side of Boomer Squad? Yeah, Boomer Squad banned Camille.
Yeah.
If they're going to consider Poppy here at all, like if this is at all in consideration, I don't think you need to ban Camille.
Mm.
Like, yeah, he's a really good champion, but like he that Dippy's one of his best. But like, the Poppy can literally just click W, and now Camille cannot engage on the team, right? So like, I feel like leaving that up would have been fine, unless you aren't gonna play Poppy. So
Yeah, but I even feel like with Camille in that spot instead of Darius, like it's still up to Boomer's squad's team comp to walk in the Sad Jellyfish, and when you have Shanti on multiple kills, Salt getting accelerated while not getting kills, I mean, still has assists, still has a lot of CS and gold, and you got Haku on 2 items getting accelerated early. That's a really hard comp to like walk into with just J4, honestly. Um, not that Poppy and Aurora can't like be main engages, but they've got to get super up close and personal. And when you have something like Rel, um, also like being kind of the Felix of that comp, it's really hard. I mean, I do say it will weaken Sad Jellyfish's comp a little bit, but like Poppy needs to be with the Boomer Squad's like core group, and Poppy's just gonna split push there. I feel like, but there's been a lot of conversations and what ifs regarding some of these drafts in the series. But yeah, all in all, I think it was a great Darius angle. It's not something I don't think anybody else has really played this split, and Dippy's played everything. um,
Havoc played it.
Havoc played it.
He had that crazy, crazy game where he went like
Oh, that's
16 and
right, he
2
did. That was super early in the season.
yeah, he went like
Okay,
16 and 2 or something on that shit. It was insane.
I remember that now. Yeah, yeah, I forgot about the Havoc Darius pop off. Yeah,
But yeah, I agree. I get what you're saying. I always like to kind of talk about the what ifs, and also
yeah,
the reason
yeah,
why I like to talk about the what ifs is because it's a semifinal match, right? What looking at what these teams could have done in this situation is really interesting for me to kind of break down what the win cons could have been. What could have been a Boomer Squad 2-0, or what could have been a Sad Jellyfish 2-0 or 2-1, right?
yeah.
So let's go ahead and let's jump into game three and discuss that a little more, because I think the game three draft from Boomer Squad was really, really, really well executed across the board. I think they had a really nice draft to deal with the Echo, and we saw it happen, right? We saw the once or twice Echo just get insta popped from the burst from Zaya and the CC from this Rakan. Perfect just a perfect thing to draft bot lane there. Also, I'm really surprised Ashanti didn't go back to this Caitlyn. I think Caitlyn and Desire would have been fine here. I do think that Rakan would bring some dangers to the Caitlyn, but I think the range that Caitlyn has over the Ezreal makes it a little harder for Chengi to find as many free engages as he was able to find on this Ezreal. Um, and so that was something that surprised me. Now, I guess in the end, the reason why they probably did draft the Ezreal, not the Caitlyn, because Caitlyn is not as self-sufficient as Ezreal. Like, she's not as safe in lane. And Marcuti wanted to roam, which he did on this Nautilus. But still, I still feel like the Caitlyn would have been the better overall pick, to me. Um, as far as the rest of the draft from these two teams, you had the Wombo combo because you got Tang's Oriana plus the Amumu, so you're getting that Wombo. And then Victor on this Urgot against Dippy's Khaled top lane. I think it's kind of a skill matchup, but Victor was able to get a solo kill, so it's good for him early in this this lane. And then we had the Anivia mid, which I know you said you weren't the biggest fan of the pick here in this
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. I'm actually going back and just looking through the draft just so I'm not mistaken. But the Ezreal B1 and then the snap response Zaya Rakan, which is still a very respectable lane. Um, I think is a really good solid bot lane to bring to the game three. Like you're not really committing to any like specific style, and when they already show their bot lane, you're not punishing the Zaya as much. At least the punishment needs to come from something else. With Rakan showing, like picking this Echo, I thought was very like gutsy from Haku. I know he just came off a really really good like snowbally game two, and he had like the dream Echo game there, but then Boomer Squad Arthurine Amumu, I think just completely already shuts this Echo down. Like between Rakan and Amumu, you just there's nothing that this Echo's going to do. So I kind of question that. Like I understand, like I said, the high of going in coming out of game two, you're like, man, I really just accelerated and kind of almost carried that game a little bit. Um, but I think it was Boomer Squad rose up to the challenge that they seen what Sad Jellyfish did and responded really well in draft. And then yeah, the touch on this Anivia pick. It's no secret to anybody that knows me. Like I love the champion, I do, but she can be punished in the draft quite a bit. I thought with like Zaya Rakana Mumu showing that it was kind of a gutsy Anivia angle, but then Boomer Squad again responded to that really well with the Oriana and the Urgot. So I, if game one was like kind of a stylistic different takes on the drafts, and then Salad Jellyfish responded game two really well, I think Boomer Squad turned around and just responded very well to Sad Jellyfish's draft in game three. Hang's Oriana kind of getting into the game a little bit was really like put on a really good show. I know Salt got a solo kill, or no, I think Tang got a solo kill in the Salt at first, and then Salt came back and got another solo and got a solo kill back in the Tang. So there was a lot of fighting in the mid lane. But once the mid game happened, and Sad Jellyfish's comp didn't get really like too far ahead, this ball delivery system from Mumu, Rakan, Urgot just started really cleaning up team fights and just womboing them. Um, yeah, I know you had some epic shoutcast calls on that. Some of those wombos.
That was pretty fun to see. Yeah, and Victor, I like to point out Victor's Urgot was also really instrumental here because even though he ended up getting punished after the solo kill, and then Dippy started to kind of like win the matchup a bit. He had at least one fight. I remember topside where he ends up alting back the Kled, and then flashing in to get like I think a 3-man fear or something like that, and they just won the fight from that. Like it was just the fight was over. And it was a really key point in the game where like it turned the tides for sure, and with the gold in the favor and tempo in the favor of them. I don't remember if they got any objectives off it. Maybe they got Baron or something. I can't remember. I'd have to kind of scroll through this a little bit and kind of see if I can find it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely do think that the comp was the biggest thing for both sides here. Like this was just I've talked about it on my team before. Somebody once told me that you can't really win a game in your draft, but I tend to disagree. Yes, it still does come down to execution, but when your execution is easier to execute, it's like, all right, so this is probably an 80% chance we win this game type thing, then you pretty much won it in draft. And I think that's basically what happened here. I think this was the one of those times that for sure said Jellyfish got outdrafted. Because I think the first two games, I don't think anyone particularly outdrafted anybody. I think like the first game, they were pretty even comps with different ideals. One wanted to scale, one didn't. Game two was, I mean, we could probably say was Sad Jellyfish player was slightly in the draft. But yeah, game three was definitely where it was like, okay, this was a bad draft from Sad Jellyfish considering what they could have had on the table. Um,
Mm.
and then execution obviously was a bit of an issue for them as well, uh, as they were made numerous mistakes, and eventually Boomer Squad were able to capitalize and win the game. But I am
I
trying to
just
pull up the play.
yeah, no. I don't necessarily like think it was quote unquote like a terrible draft or a bad draft. I just thought that these two teams had such good responses to what was getting thrown at them in draft, especially in the second phase. Um, that it was it was really clutch. Like it didn't make or break the game in draft, but it definitely like increased the percentages quite a bit. Um, if we can go back and play kind of the what if game, like I thought with what Tang has shown a majority of the split, Salt's like Zareth would have been really, really good here. Um, or maybe something else out of Dippy. Because I really think that Urgot kind of wins that matchup. Like Kled can stand his ground and loves to fight in lane, but I feel like once Kled gets dismounted, he's just easily opened up to an Urgot ult, and never gets a chance to like remount, which we kind of seen that in some of the fights. I think actually when that fight you're referring to, he might have ulted Kled and flashed forward.
Yeah,
Because Kled, I don't think is super great as being like the solo frontliner or tank.
no, not at all.
Um,
Yeah, I'm actually showing the clip right now. It was a big three-man alt by the Amumu that led into the alt onto Kled, and then once he pulled Kled in, he was able to flash in and get another three-man fear. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, the both of them, both Poke Archer and Victor, were kind of highlights of that fight. And then that was what led to the Baron and kind of cracked open the game. So that was the exact fight I was remembering, and I remembered it correctly. And then it just took them a little bit longer to kind of close the game out. Which, talking about, you know, fun shockwaves. It certainly wasn't a faker shockwave find them all moment, but it was pretty close. I think it was like a three-man shockwave at the tier 3 bot side.
oh yeah, yeah. I clipped that one. That got on YouTube that night. That was such an epic team fight.
Yeah, it
Um,
was great. And so, Boomer Squad did all the right things, and they were able to take down the defending champions. And there should be nothing taken away here from Sad Jellyfish.
oh
They,
no, they had a fantastic
they have
season.
been one of the best teams this split without a question, if not damn near the best at a certain point. They were favored for a reason, but Boomer Squad adapted and found a way to ramp up when it mattered most, and um, did some good drafting and were able to pull out the victory in three. So, again, congratulations to them on doing that. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, as they say. So,
Yeah, yeah. This was a close series, and it could have went either way if played a different day. Um, but all in all, I think Boomer Squad gave themselves a big the edge that they needed in the draft, and it turned out in the game as well. Also to note, like Sad Jellyfish, all three games with the Echo Jungle, never played like an AD mid laner, so they always had double AP in the top side of the map, which I think made it really easy for Poke Archer to like pick out a defensive item. Um, so I don't know if that was just something by design or what they were thinking about in there, but just kind of noticed that. So,
oh no, I hope the sound didn't get cut off during what you were saying. My my headphones came undone. So,
oh,
hopefully it still came through. But
I think OBS should have recorded it. It's all good.
yeah, should be fine. But yeah, no, I get you. I agree. And so, was there any more closing statements before we move on to the next series?
Uh, no, I mean, congrats to Boomers making it to the finals. I still, want to give mad props to Sad Jellyfish, having one hell of a season. I mean, winning it last split and then making semifinals this split is pretty good. Two split run there. They did a lot of creative things this year. It's one of the few teams that pull out of Nivea. Salt's, Zareth, and Vlad have been a treat to watch. Haku's, Echo, Dippy with the champion Ocean that he's got. I think it's a really, really talented team. And if they come back next split, they're definitely going to be like one of the true like front runners to win another split.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think they'll like if you were to do a what like a
Our rankings?
well, maybe not a power rankings, but if you were to do like a Vegas, like who's gonna win the Super Bowl, what are their odds, right? They're gonna be one of those teams that's got like the plus 200, right? Or is it minus 200? I always forget which way it goes. They're
I
gonna
think
be
it's
one of the. I think.
minus.
Well, yeah, whoever's favored, like number one favored, would be the minus. I think it is, and then everybody else would be plus. So they'd be like the plus 200 type thing, the plus the plus 150. They'd have very high chances to win over
Yep.
whoever the eventual uh, final champions will be this split. So they're definitely not going to like lose a bunch of like chances in my eyes just because they lost the series. That's not how this works. They're
I
still a
mean,
very solid team.
they only dropped two series all split.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Like,
pretty
that's
amazing.
impressive. That's
Yep,
impressive.
yep. So, but let's go ahead and move on to the next series, which was the Scorch versus Zoomers series. This one was really really fun. And I'm just again I'm very happy for Scorch. You know they've been around a long time, so seeing them being able to finally make it to the finals and have an opportunity is amazing. So that's really awesome. But to touch on the actual series, it was also just a fun series to watch from both teams. But in the very first game, something that I remember mentioning was this Ivern. I was so shook that Standby took Ivern because I knew that like not only is he a really good Briar player, but he's a good Lee Sin player, and I'm sure there's some other little sneaky picks. He played Viego against us. He's got to have a few other things. Ivern just did not feel like it fit them, like what they wanted to do as a team. Sure, it helps the Yasuo and the Jinx and Garen like stay alive and stuff, and it's really nice for zone control with Daisy. But like, I don't think they need that. I feel like they want to get in there and find picks and outduel you. And Ivern doesn't really give you as much of that potential, right? Especially from a mechanically gifted player like Standby. So that was my big thing in the draft that I noted. Otherwise, it was I think Boonstra Syndra, right? Because it was a flex pick, and it definitely threw off Zoomers in the draft. Those were the only two things I felt were like big. Otherwise, it seemed pretty standard.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I think I came in like right during the load up of this game, so I didn't have a chance to look back at the draft until now. Um, but yeah, no, they blinded Syndra and Nami. They B1 B2'd. So I mean, there's probably some thought that at some point that Syndra could go bot. We seen Syndra and Nami pulled out by what was it, Geico, and I think another duo. Pulled it out. It might have been. It actually might have been Booster and Glyco. Uh, or earlier in the and I think week 7. Yeah, week 7 there was a lot of Syndra played after the durability patch came in. Um, so there could have been thought that this Syndra was going to go bot, but then when Zoomers R4'd Yasuo coming out of the second banning phase, I mean we seen Tim pull out this Renekton into the Wind Bros multiple times this playoffs already. So um, that ended up becoming a pretty clutch pick in the middle of the draft, and ultimately I think gave Scorch a lot of just flexibility there. Because once you see this Renekton come out, you're like, okay, this has to be a bot lane Syndra. Um, so. But yeah, kind of getting to this Ivern pick. I think Ivern in a vacuum is like a very oppressive champion. But I kind of agree that when I think of Zoomers, Ivern is probably the last thing that comes to mind. Standby and Afterpack are just two mechanically gifted players, and they just love to be in your face and fight. With stuff like LeBlanc and, like you mentioned, Viego, Briar. Like these are all go forward. I'm gonna hands check you type of picks. Um, but the Yasuo Ivern like Garen top side of the map, I just feel like you're not getting the full effectiveness out of Ivern. I think we even touched on it after game one, where it it works, but it doesn't work as good as you need it to work. Boonstra got definitely quite a bit ahead, excuse me, and blew up Yabu and Relentless a couple times, and then Renekton. I think I remember Tom on two separate occasions, like Empower W and breaking, uh, like after Pax Yasuo passive shield that also had Ivern shield on top of it, or it might have been Lulu. Either way, like you have ways of dealing with it through your team comp overall. So, yeah, Ivern doesn't strike me as a Zoomers pick, but I know the champion's super strong, so I was kind of curious to see how it worked. And yeah, Scorch just got off the ground, drafted really well, and just overall, um, it did what they wanted to do this game.
Yeah. I was gonna say, for everyone to know, the Yubu is actually strawberry tea, so everyone's not confused. It's their AD
Oh,
carry.
sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I think that's just his name on Battlefy, and that's why Battlefy sucks sometimes because like the names are different in game and stuff. It's so confusing. Um,
Yeah.
but as far as that Renekton and that Syndra to touch on too, Syndra twice now has come in clutch for Scorch. Right? They did it against Team, and Tem was just unbelievable on the pick, and then we have Moonshot with it. But as far as the Renekton specifically in this game, Tem did kind of troll himself a little bit. I think he ended up getting solo killed by the Yasuo because he ended up being 2 levels down. Yeah, there's the clip. Here's the clip, actually. As I'm saying it, here it is. Lucky for the Renekton, the Yasuo took another turret shot that Yasuo did not intend to take, and that kind of saved him a little bit in the matchup. So this game one certainly could have went the way of Zoomers, regardless of the way the draft went, with stuff like the early game. But I think Scorch got a little lucky at times, and that's okay sometimes. Sometimes you need luck on your side, and then it's what you do with the luck afterwards. And I thought after Tem got a little help back from the turret, he went and started to really take over this game once again on this Renekton. I think he was like 3-1 or 4-1 at one point within like the first like 12 minutes or something. He was just killing everybody and anybody he saw. I think he had like a 1v2 mid lane. It was just a massacre. Uh, and then obviously you also had this Gwen. So like you had all this, and then the Gwen also still existed, and Ares was just destroying everything he saw too. It was actually insane. Like, and Garen's a counter matchup. So like I'm thinking like okay, CC Star shouldn't be bad in the matchup, which I think he did even get a solo kill, but Ares played it really really well, got himself a lead, and just he saw somebody. I'm clicking my abilities. You're gonna die. It was just so many kill threats on the side of Scorch to deal with, and then you had this again team that just relied on standbys Ivern to keep them safe. And sure, Lulu existed too, but like that's why it almost feels like it was too much because you already had Lulu, and so like you didn't have the engage tools you really needed to kind of shut down this comp, right? To jump on the Syndra and one shot the Syndra Nami, for example. You didn't really have that. I mean, maybe after pack it's a crazy tornado or something, but that's like your best bet. Or maybe the Daisy can walk up and slap people a couple times. But like those things are just a little more harder to count on, for sure. So
Yeah, I also like to note, like you see double enchanter Jinx, you're like, okay, there's like I see the theory behind this, but then Strawberry Tea just went like a full armor pen build, which this early Earth Drake that they got, I think it might have been the first Drake. Yeah. Um, kind of negates a lot of that lethality that he wanted to build. I mean, he went Collector, Lord Doms into another Dirk, which I think might have been opportunity he was building towards, but I just he did it twice in this series. The kind of foreshadow game too a little bit where it just wasn't attack speed related, and I just felt like if you have double enchanter there, you can go the scaling Jinx build, maybe even collector first, collector like Phantom Dancer, IE something like that if it's not too expensive. Um, to really start putting out. damage. But all in all, to go with that, Renekton getting Randuin's Omen, their third item with Steric's Gauge, like it's an all AD comp to note as well. So it it was very easy to watch Scorch itemize into Zoomer's comp this game one.
Yeah, and I didn't even consider that. I don't even think I consider that in the cast because I mean technically Ivern and Lulu do uh, AP damage, but obviously it's null and void if they're basically just building supportive, and that's what they both were doing. So that was going to be limited on the damage they could output. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was definitely a good, really smart draft from Scorch. This game one draft was really, really smart. Um,
yeah.
I don't remember like any particulars of like what broke open the game per se. I know there was a couple fat Amumu R's in this series. I don't know if it was this game because I thought he picked it again in game two. I can't remember. Did he? Remember?
Um,
No, he might not have. I can't remember. No, he
no,
didn't. He
no,
picked
it was
Poppy.
in this game.
So it was in this game. It was in. He picked Poppy in that game. Okay. Yeah, so there was like a definitely at least one or two like huge Amumu R's that he found. One on one was it? Was there a 5-man? Was there a 4-man? I don't know,
There
man.
was a 5 man Amumu R in one of the Dragon fights.
Okay, so there was, yeah.
Um, and that clip's on YouTube. Actually, if you're still scrolling through it, 25, 26 minutes to
Okay,
25:45. If you want to showcase that for our fans.
sure. I'll let it play through from here. But yeah, so that was the big thing too. Was like
And this is for Soul as well, by the way.
okay, yeah, and they got an early soul. That's another thing to know. It was a very early soul game. Like they were on top of the objectives. Like Rusty was like making sure that they were going to get these objectives, and it was a really just smartly played game from him.
Yeah.
Um, regardless of what the Gwen did and the Renekton did and how fed they got in their solo lanes, like the Zamumu was setting everybody up, and it was also a very low kill game for the most part. I mean, looking at the game before that fight we're about to show, it was only 11 kills to 7 at the 25-minute mark. That's low for a game that's an amateur league, right? That's what we are. We still have bloodbath games for sure. A lot less than the pro scene will have. So to see only 11 to 7 kills at 25 minutes, that's 18 kills. That's less than a kill a minute. It's pretty crazy. So these teams they played really temperate on both sides. Nobody was really like doing anything crazy. They were trying to make the right plays and um, you know Scorch just had slightly better macro and a couple better skirmishes that led them to get the setup for the Drakes and eventually the soul at a very early part in the game. And once they got the soul, which was the ocean, like it was pretty much almost impossible to really
Oh, it was
cut it
GG. Yeah.
down. Yeah, I mean Gwen was constantly healing at that point. Um, Obviously Renekton is going to be healing pretty consistently. So what's crazy about that fight too? I didn't even remember. It's literally before the fight starts, the Gwen gets caught out too. It's kind of absurd they won that.
Yeah.
But I guess it helps when you have Renekton flanking and a really giant Amumu. So
Yeah. There was when it's Ocean Soul and your best damage dealer is a poke lethality Jinx. It's just not good. It just there's nothing you can do. So.
yeah, so they gave their best effort here in this game one, but yeah, Scorch was too much to take down here in game one. Let's go ahead and touch on game two real fast. What happened in game two, CLT? I'll let you lead us off.
Um, Game two. So when I was doing the notes for this game, I literally just have one sentence, and that's Tim's Ari. It just that went off in the mid game. Um, Not to like jump too far past the draft. We did see a little more of a Zoomer style comp. You have After Pack on Stylus, which I mean he's one of what I consider like one of the Stylus gods of the leagues. Him and Rurika, and there might have been one other one. But there's like a batch of Silas players in this league that really popped off. And he got, I think he got a kill from an early 2v2 skirmish that gave him double buffs, but then went right back in, and I think he thought he was playing Yasuo because he tanked another two turret shots, which Tom him did did punish, and he gets double buffs back, and that just accelerated him. Every fight, it felt like this Ari got 2 or 3 kills, had a fully stacked Magi's, had 3 items. I'm sorry, 4 items if you count the Magi's at the end of of a 30-minute game. It just completely went off. Um, I know they wanted to kind of play a little bit of the protect the Boonstra comp with more of a split pusher, but this Ari just went absolute nuts once this like mid game and the turrets fell and broke open. Had quite a few just charms, clutch charms on Strawberry Tea and CC Star uh, to turn fights around, and then this Ari got to a point where I think she even one-shotted standby uh, in the middle. Like I think he queued in and got charmed out of it. Um, but
Yeah. How did we
no, this
feel about the Tom Kench, by the way?
um in a vacuum, I kind of like the Tom Kinch. I think it's really good when Camille ults, or if like Rusty CC's Strawberry and is like powering up the ult, or even like can get somebody out of an Ari charm. Like if they land a clutch charm, Tom Kinch can just go up and eat them. But I just felt like um, it feels like it's a very hard thing to pull off at the state of the champion. Um, and with a lot of melees there, like Tom Kinch has to move far up into a team fight if he's trying to save or do something in the team fight. I feel like looking back at this now, and I kind of thought about this after like I went over the games again, where I felt like something like Tarek or Thresh could have been maybe slotted in just a touch better. Tarek plus melee champs. I mean, you can ult them and they all group up together, and you're pretty happy with that, and it extends his stun range too. Um, but also something like Thresh can do similar things where it helps keep the team safe, but it's a little more pick oriented into like Nami, Kog'Maw, and even Ari to some degree. Like if Ari sees a hook that she wasn't planning, she still has to burn ult or flash to get out of it. So, um, all in all, like I felt like the Tom Kench was, I don't want to say like useless. Like it had a good theory behind it, but I think there's other champions that do his job just better right now.
Makes sense. Yeah, and I'm gonna something also to note. Like Standby's Lee Sin is very clean, right? And I make mention, and he certainly had an opportunity to carry this game. Was up early, and I'm showing the clip now, but there's a, or at least it's coming up soon. There's a he gets a triple kill. I'm trying to get it to the start of the clip here, where he dives bot lane, and times Ari comes down and tries to defend it, but didn't have his ult. So he's just an Ari walking at you. And so it ended up going in the favor of uh, Zoomers very heavily, and it was all standbys Lisa in the play. It was just kind of insane. Um, and that's what I was kind of talking about, though. A lot about what I really thought Zoomers was going to do, especially starting in game one. And it feels like maybe if they start that way from game one, just play their style, that maybe. I'm sorry, it wasn't a triple kill. It was actually shut down for the Jinx. Maybe the series goes differently, but I feel like they put themselves on the back burner early, and it ended up kind of costing them. They did have opportunities though in this game. I just think a little more of the gold needed to be on some of these other players, as well as like maybe helping out this Jax because CC Star was kind of struggling a bit topside, so kind of getting punished. But overall, at the end of the day, like Scorch came to play, and I know Rusty also had a couple massive pop Rs in this game too. Like he was not going to be denied in this series. Like I feel like Tem might have had this awesome game too, and even a pretty good game one. But I feel like the soul of the team was on fire, and that was Rusty. Like he was
Yeah.
not messing around and refused to lose. So that's something that's like he's got his own little like will of fire. If anyone gets the Naruto reference, it was really awesome to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Rusty had an absolute fantastic series. It's definitely like the numbers don't give it enough respect to like what he did to for his team and put him in positions to like succeed.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this game, this series was pretty entertaining. And all in all, congrats to Scorch for getting to the finals. But also congrats to Zoomers. I mean, they had a hell of a series, hell of a season. They had some unique, wacky picks. Um, with stuff like Zoe Jungle and didn't they play Briar support into you guys, didn't they?
Who? I'm sorry.
Zoomers. They played against you guys in round one and had
Yes.
like a couple bunch of creative picks and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
They did. Yeah.
so yeah, Zoomers had a successful season. They were the last man standing from Group B and got to the semifinals and performed really well.
Yeah, there should be there'd be no love lost there. That they performed all split, and
Yeah.
would have loved to see them play more. It was unfortunate some of the stuff that happened there in Group B, but they were fun to watch, and
Mhm.
hope they return for our next split. Because I'd love to see more from the whole team. With that being said, I'd like to talk about the finals a little bit before we close off here. We'll give it like 10 minutes. We're already at 50 minutes on the episode. If everyone's wondering the reason why episodes are long, it's also, I mean, we have a lot to talk about. But, it's the playoffs. I want to go more, as much in depth as I can into these games. So I'm allowing us this time. So sorry if you guys don't like the longer video. If you don't, that is, I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you prefer it. But I just think bringing levity to these series is important. Obviously, regular season, I don't want to sit there and talk about 6 series for 4 hours. It's just not going to happen, even for us. But in this circumstance, I definitely want to make sure we were touching on the series as best we can. So
Mhm.
let's go ahead and touch on the finals then, man. We have Scorch versus Boomer Squad, and what are we feeling? Like what are we looking at here?
Oh wow, this is gonna be a series. Um, man, I think there's a lot of creativity coming out from Boomer Squad, especially as we've talked about in the past. Victor Apple has some really unique and off meta picks, but like when it comes to off meta picks, you can definitely tell when a team is like practiced around it. And Victor's what he's cooked this season. I don't think he started playing top lane like right before the season, and you couldn't tell by the end of the season. Like he was, I could argue one of like the most improved players. Um, he even mentioned like the struggles he had in the players like Dippy, and then you couldn't even tell that he had any struggles in their series in the semifinals. So, um, but with that being said, like Ares in the top lane is still a monster as well. So I think that matchup is going to be hyped in the sense of like what Victor just got done um, going toe to toe with what I would probably consider as one of the hardest top laners to play against, which is his champion pool, which is Dippy, and then he's got another rough challenge into Airy. But with that being said, when we cast this game, it's going to be really hard to cast Tang and Tim.
I'm just gonna call them the
In the mid lane.
T's, TTs.
Yeah,
Oh wait, that
but
sounded so
also
bad.
you got yeah, yeah, and also you got Bori and Boonstra on the bot lane.
What
There's a
is
lot of
going
names out
on?
there that are kind of similar. I
Who?
think like these two teams are are so I wouldn't say even like evenly matched, but it's just going to be such an entertaining series, and it's whoever's going to play better that day, kind of similar to what we were talking about some of these other series in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the biggest question mark is going to be Poke Archer against Rusty. Like Rusty has caught fire this playoffs. Um, and he's playing some really good League of Legends right now. Um, and I will be curious to see what Poke Archer has in store, if he's cooking up anything, or how the 2v2 between Tang and Poke Archer and Tim and Rusty are gonna go.
Yeah.
I think that could be the big X factor in the series because Rusty has shown that he's just a talented jungler all season, but this playoffs he's definitely performed really well. Okay, hit me with it. Let's go.
Specifically, team fights. That is my key factor in key breakaway or team fights because I think these two teams are actually very evenly matched. I'm going to say that the finals doesn't have a favorite. I'm going to say this is literally
I think that's fair.
my most
Yeah,
50-50 split I've ever felt on a series. Because as much as Scorch has been around and they're a team that I trust to get it done when it matters. Boomer Squad just showed me that they can get it done when it matters too. And they have such similar play styles. They have two phenomenal mid laners with very high skill ceilings. They've got two bot lanes where it's kind of like not that they don't matter because that's so far from true, but that they are the least focal point of the team 90% of the time. And then you have top laners who are just like, hi, I'm here to do my job, with a slight interesting factor that is Victor because he does have the unique pull, but at the same point, they both generally feel like they play something for the team. I'm sorry, but I think Gwen still is a champ for the team. She's about like, hey, you have a tank, I'm gonna shred that shit. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just pointing that out. Like, they usually play for the team. They're not really playing for themselves. And then you've got the junglers who are the encompassment of playing for the team. Like, they're going to pick picks that are going to be Sejuani's and Amumu's and J4s, anything that is going to set the team up. So I did agree with your sentiment that that matchup is going to matter, but I think that for me it matters more because of these team fights since they both play such similar styles. And so for that, it's going to be ballers because when these team fights happen, it's going to come down to basically what you also just said. Who plays better? And what that means for me, what is Bori and Boonstra's positioning like? Are they positioning properly in these team fights? If one of them missteps, boom, team fight one for the other team. Is Tem and Tang, are they fed? Are they not fed? Are they even? What are they playing? Can they play something that can set up for the team, or are they playing something that might require more of a front to back esque fight? That's gonna matter because they're both very talented players that they can get in there and do it for themselves just as much as they can allow the team to do for them. So it's going to be hype. And so I would not be surprised if these games are won and lost at Barons or Dragons. Like, just straight up. I would not be surprised by that. And that's kind of what I'm expecting when I go into this series. So that's, like, my key, like, I got to think of, like, a new word for this. And I'm going to use it for next split. But, like, my, I don't know, man. My keys to victory? No, because I'm not giving a victory for one team. But I'm gonna think of something. What I'm gonna call this. But that's gonna be my key my breakdown for what I think the series is gonna look like.
I would I mean I agree for the most part. Like these teams are evenly matched, and as cliche and as obvious it is to say, like yeah, whoever comes out a team fights better, I think is going to come out the victor. And also to note, like this is going to be on a different patch as well. But I'm kind of skimming through the patch notes, and I don't see any changes that stand out to be like favored towards one team or another here. Um, in this matchup, I mean, there's a lot of nerfs on champions that these guys have played before. I mean, even looking back at their week 2 matchup, where Boomers 2-0'd Scorch. I mean, Tang played Nasus, and they've already nerfed that into the ground, and even nerfed it again this patch. Um, so I mean, Man, yeah, this is gonna be a good one. I I will be more than happy to sit down and watch 5 games of these two teams going at it. To see who our champions will be this split.
Yeah, yeah, no, I am excited for that, and I am looking forward to it. So, what what else you got for me? Anything else, or are we pretty much done then?
Um,
I,
I mean, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Going into the finals, this has been an absolute like amazing split to sit back and watch. I appreciate everybody listening to us, and you know you appreciate you letting me come on and cast in and having a lot of fun growing this league and seeing what we can do with it. So
yep. I do wanna point something out. I guess before we get off, we will have a Finals MVP, which will be separate from the regular season MVP. So I haven't decided how I want to do it yet. I'll brainstorm over the next couple of days. CLT could probably help me out with that. I mean, I'm thinking of either doing like a live voting, so you guys can vote in the stream, or as much as I would definitely not want to do this, um, me and CLT can just maybe pick someone out that we really felt was highlighted. But I just do not want to do that because I don't want to come off like super biased, right? I want it to be voted upon if possible. Um, so we'll see what it looks like. I mean, it's the first time doing it, so you're gonna have to cut us some slack, however it turns out. But that's what the Q&A is going to be for. So I know I mentioned it already in the Rec League chat, but guys, I'd like to do this. It would be great. Have CLT on, maybe even Havoc on as well. Have all of us kind of talking about what we can do to improve the split. I know CLT isn't a mod, but he has just as much impact on what happens here with the goings of the league because he helps me cast. He does this show with me. He's very, very important to what happens here. So probably us three. Maybe if you get a fourth mod on or something, we'll all just kind of get in and chat a little bit and kind of break down what we want to do for next split. And also, we are planning to have another split here this year. I mean, technically it will be this year, but it'll end next year. So keep an eye out for that. My thought process as of now is to start it after Thanksgiving and have a break for Christmas. But nothing is set in stone. Just keep an eye out for that. If we do get that set up, it will probably get it set up soon. I know we're going to be talking this Friday about it more to kind of see if there's a way we can do this and make it work for everybody. But yeah, other than that, thank you all for coming to watch the show. Thank you all for supporting me and CLT this split. It's been a wonderful ride. This won't be our last show. We will do at least one more for this split, as we're going to make a show about finals and just kind of probably cover a little bit of what happened during the league. More just like the overall view of it. And that'll be that. So thanks again. And we will leave you until we hopefully see you this weekend, because I hope the game's played this weekend. And
yep.
that'll be that. So CLT, any closing statement from you?
No, good luck to the teams in the finals. It's been an amazing split, and hopefully this is a great 5 game series to cap off a really entertaining and really competitive split here. So, um, we don't know when the series is scheduled to be played yet, but we'll definitely get that word out there to all the fans, and hopefully we see you in the chat when we're casting this great series.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. GG, and you all have a wonderful night.